Dr. John will start, and after. Okay, so welcome everyone. Okay, thank you for joining us. We have actually the main topic is African music beyond time and space, and we have Dr. Mamadou John Gallo's paper entitled Rastafari Foundation, Black Consciousness and Pan Africanism. And then we're gonna have Dr. Bigge's Wisdom Beyond Rapture, from the era to blues and jazz, African music, our sonic memory of the Black Atlantic. And last but not least, on va donner après la parole à Dr. Kino Sisson, qui est actuellement à Paris. Il est actuellement à Paris. Il va travailler sur les vies à Lyon. Il a vu à Paris, je pense, à 48 comme ça. Donc, il va travailler sur le voyage de la voie africaine, analyse du policier à travers les âges et l'espace. Donc, lui, il est musicologue et il enseigne ça aussi. Okay. So, we hope to have like, beautiful and meaningful dialogue this afternoon. And we have like, friends and colleagues joining us online. Most of them are in the States. And welcome, for being with us. Okay. Thank you so much. So without further ado, I'm going to give the floor to Dr. Mamadou John Jallo. He's going to talk about this presentation. Thank you so much. Hello. Hello. So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Manda. Thank you, Dr. Zari. I'm actually all the judge at the hospital working. I also so in Africa, music has always been an institution. We talk about the Palaver Tree, and we talk about the Palaver Tree, who is a drum. Drumming and rhythm is part of African institutions. It's not like anybody else in the world. That's very important. So today, when we talk about foundation, Black consciousness and Pan-Africanism, we're going to see how music conveys from a state of identity as Black people around the world. So just a reminder that in Africa we have the Somalia Empire and Mali Empire, and also in Senegal. There's always a drum in the utilization of the king. King is still trying to use a drum, personal drum, which is ritual. But let me tell you that in Somalia, for example, when the enemy wanted to tackle the king, the first thing they used to do is try to steal the drum, the sacred drum. And in Mali, when small country was defeated, she not directed, needed, the average to steal the drum center. You can steal the drum, which developed for small used to play this whole fighting with enemies. And until now, this sacred battle still exists in Guinea, and every year they celebrate it, every year they set the ritual. The way the Mandinka community will gather in Guinea and they play for the whole day. This musical drum, Malafon, which is more than 800 years old. Now, how this is linked to this kind of foundation and why it is the way of expressing Black consciousness and Pan-Africanism. And part of the Bible is foundation consciousness and black bargaining, a synthesis of Rastafari political awakening and cultural unity. So we see groundation as ritual to resistance. Groundation, black consciousness, and Pan-Africanism is a coherent work. It symbolizes the cohesion of African customs. Pan-Africanism can be understood as a political ideology, historical project, and a central framework of reflection within African political structure. However, it's not a fixed concept. On the contrary, it has evolved over time in response to the historical, social, geopolitical context specific to Africa and its diaspora. From this perspective, it fully aligns with what some outlets describe as
parce que son bi nekk télé bi son bi télé bi ak son bi muy génn parce que su moom buy wax son bi lay dal ci ordinateur léegi il faut que ñu coupé bee ba que ne di wax ñu ko
Ah, d'accord.
comme gisoo dafa am écho
Kon mun na ñu arrêté février
how we know about the one for the Zion African axis. Pan-Africanism from Edward Clyden to Hamid Clone insists on the political, cultural, and spiritual unity of African people globally. The foundation provides the effective symbolic infrastructure for that unity. Foundation transforms spiritual rootedness into a framework for psychological liberation, not consciousness and transnational community. That's it. Pan-Africanism. Most people think of Pan-Africanism as a conference and survival, but we can argue that it starts on the ground, literally, with a drum, a circle, and a date, which is April 1968, the 21st, 1960. Foundation is a Rastafari ritual, but it's also political technology. We'll come to this later. It takes black consciousness, which is healing the mind, black consciousness healing the mind, and turns it into Pan-Africanism, healing the conscience with sound. So we're just talking about religion. We're not just talking about religion. We're talking about how ritual creates a revolution. So we see the picture of the light in the dazzle, fire. Dazzle around the fire is a very provoke. The common, we have maybe we'll have more inside world than we have the future. So we have to share it for this. Now, two, Naya Bengi asked anti-colonial genealogy. The name from Ugandan Queen, Naya Bengi, who was an anti-colonial warrior. The term Naya Bengi itself derived from Ugandan anti-colonial claim and movement that resisted European occupation. Italian journalist Federico Pilas in 1934 described Naya Bengi as a secret social devoted, a secret society devoted to death to all white families. So also Pilas wrote propaganda. Early Rastas to claim the term to name the drunk and dozen. Foundation therefore channels a continuous tradition of African resistance from East African anti-colonial wars to Canadian revolution. And we have to understand the link between Rasta bearing dreadlocks. And the same thing we found among the fighter, the warriors of Naya Bengi. They always wear dreadlocks. And that's why dreadlocks is something white people don't want to see. It is. Okay, it's aggressive to them. They know the history of what it means to have to bear on this type of stuff. So foundation therefore lies a channel to a continuous tradition of African resistance from East African contemporary wars to Canadian knowledge. The three drum have been three parts. The bass has jazz breath, the full lead second drum, and the human heart and kettle are kettle as ancestors. This is the smallest drum. So here you have the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Mother. And the Holy Spirit. And that's how the three drums function. Sonically, marks the political family, divinity, the living and the ancestral humanity. So how we can reclaim this from history? So the name Maya Bengi as it came from the Yuan Queen, who fought for riders, and in 1935, this state tried to use it as propaganda. Secret society, they have the white farmers, okay? Also the white black person. Pastor said, cool, we'll take that and turn it into drugs. Okay? Now let's see now how Naya Bingi embodied black consciousness and the death to Babylon. But Babylon is not about Babylon, this whole oppression, the system of oppression. Now return to Seth. Foundation, death to Babylon, and return to Seth. So now I think as psychological decolonization. So the life internet, as I say, is deaf to white and black brown oppressed. Also, all night drumming with fasting. They fast when they play the night when they celebrate, they fast. To chant down Babylon. Chanting down Babylon means rejecting mental colonialism. And what people said about black consciousness, they understood it because the most potent weapon of oppression is the mind of the oppressed. So they have to claim their mind. They have to fight. Okay? So for masters, Babylon isn't just ancient Iraq. It's the whole system that cut Africans from their lives, their names, their gods. Foundation is the title. So that's why you see people like Sunday and Gaza, they change their names. Because what black people, fear most, and what they cannot get back is their names. And the white people, they know it. When black people in America started, making it a mission to reclaim, changing their name to African name, the government refused. That because they know that they were not expecting, losing what they got from them. Their identity for identity. Because naming has a meaning. In African, most in African people know what name really means. And I guess stop here to come back to what I was saying about journey. If you go to several people on Sunday here this year from the founder, Senator for Jordan, we have a community of weavers there in Sun. They have two rituals. One is the Quran, the Muslim server. Another one is the Jam Sun. Jam Sun is Jam Sun. And this is a drum, a mythical drum that plays in sun. Used to play sun, it was 20 years ago. And when somebody dies in the family, the drum would play itself before. And the keeper will continue the information, will complete the information by playing what we call the part of the family. And they understand it. Every family fight, okay, joke, etc., they all have a part. And when the people of the drum become some playing of information, they understand that somebody is going to get them. That's it. So this is that's why I said music is much to the institution. It's not just for music. It's more than music. Okay? So right now, another step, the second step of groundation is the fact it reasons as spiritual pedagogy. Why? Second step. Talking circle plus the sacred heart. Anytime they have to celebrate without the groundation, they took granted. Everybody. I told you that they fast, but they took granted. The family, the herd, okay? And they call it the colonial classroom. Okay, talking circle plus herd is the colonial classroom. And the goal is connection to an individual to their tribes. It's a connection. And it creates conscientization, group self-realization, sense of connectiveness. And they have only during that event. Okay? For some more details, so the reasoning as future pedagogy, the reasoning circle during foundation function as typical classroom. Elders and youth discuss history, prophecy, and the political significance of Sebastian's 1966 visit. When the rain stopped and his plane landed, the sacred herd banjo is used not representationally, but to open the mind for reasoning, creating conditions for what Paulo Freire called conscientization. Critical critical consciousness of one's social reality. That's what it means. Thus, foundation operationalize Black consciousness. It transforms individual from object of history into subject. What somebody said, relocation. You have to relocate yourself. The soundtrack. Okay. So you see that what we have in epistemology of Afrocentricity, it begins here. Afrocentricity gathers all these things Black people do or used to do and transform it into mechanical. This is what is your disposal. That was the missing part of Black life. Now the second part of this reasoning classroom is psychological liberation from ritual. Psychological liberation through ritual. The second phase of this reasoning. In the order, the orders mention the prospect of life frames foundation around two tenets: death to white and black down pressure, death to oppressors, and praise to jar to Rastafari. The all-night journey, fasting, and reasoning station are designed to check down value, metaphor for the Western colonial system that alienates African from land, history, and science. As participants explain, groundation expresses the connection to a culture of its roots and the connection to an individual to their tribe. It's a way of life that refers to being balanced, grounded, and centered. So then, this mirrors Vickers' call for Black people to build up their own value system and define themselves as a coach rather than accept definitions imposed by others. Vickers said, the oppressor's coach, the oppressor's biggest weapon is your mind. Now, everything is joining all night, fasting, reasoning, that's not moving. That's deprogramming the mind. That's whereby before the word exists. So the reasoning circle is where elders and youth pass each other. which is a each generational gathering. No professor, no degree, but it's a classroom. What happened to us? We'll talk about what happened to us. What do we do? What does Black consciousness mean? Practice. What happened to us? What do we do? Next. And we put it together in our Black consciousness in practice. In the classroom. So, code, foundation is coming home to identity, to try identity. This is the code. Foundation is coming to identity. I'll say that for the 10 minutes, so that I don't finish. So Foundation Day is a covenant. This is the next part. Foundation Day is a Pan-African covenant, Pan-African commitment for Black people to fight and regain their sentence, regain their identity. Right? So Brown Nation, Brown Nation, equals so Brown Nation is more than the Rastafari ceremony held every year. It's a celebration, it's political celebration too, because time is lost here, the first was also a political. So he was the one that's known as he was the liberator of the children. And they see him as a holy person. And now I'm going to present you the liability drugs. As I said, we have 3 drugs, the base. Only one group with the father is a big beat. Okay, and its meaning is breath of God, the Lord. The fundi, the child, is a simplified person. Simplification means non-program will. Okay, unified will. That's simplification. It means the heart of the living. And the third one is the catch or catching the literature. Improvise, speaks, which is the voice of ancestor, the heart. Okay, so you see, Nabi as a trinity, meaning the boss is great, so it's God's breath, the fundi is the heart, and catching is the ancestor. When they lock in, you are not listening to music, you incite a family meeting, the pastorality, the trinity, the father, the mother, and the son. So I will finish concluding, saying that foundation is rootedness to rise. There are 3 steps. Like I said, the first step is the ground, heal the self, then you reason, diagnose the system, then you change, declare unity. That's why it works. That's how it works, I'm sorry. It does not skip the healing to get to the politics. You have to go through the healing to get to the politics. The second part is the collecting that's meaning that you have to reason collective diagnosis operation, critical diagnosis. Argument, summits are important, but without rituals like this, Pan-Africanism is just logistics. One nation gives the soul, the sound, and the body. Harmony, right? That's the rules. So chant number 3 is chant the unity of Africa, diaspora, which is Pan-Africanism. The Nile order has the rule: no weak heart shall enter. You have to be strong, because they know before you can liberate a continent, you have to be grounded enough to stand, and that starts with where your feet touch the earth. Now, the metaphor. We can see Nile as a metaphor of VPN. You know the VPN, the virtual private network. Okay, it creates a secure encrypted tunnel. Okay, when you have to give your message, and you will code your message. So now, Nigeria as a VPN, groundation functions as a Pan-African cultural VPN. It creates private tunnel through Babylon to the dominant Western culture. It encodes African spiritual political codes in drums plus chants and makes you appear in another location. Okay, so finally, groundation took African contact on the level, encrypted into Nile. and turn it through reggae into global youth culture. Babylon couldn't block it because it just sounded like music. It wasn't music. It's more than that. So why the metaphor works for Black consciousness? Because that the system works to police your mind. The VPN prevents this to happen. So domination prevents spiritual surveillance. Babylon can tell you who you are when you are in that drum circle. You're locked in a different circle with design. One line version provides the VPN hides your IP address. Domination hides and protects your African address. So Babylon contributes to me from the
Thank you so much, Dr. Nandao, for a beautiful presentation. Being able to connect the drums and drumming, to symbol and symbolism. In such a way, music as a political tool for liberation is so much time for the evolution of African music. Spanning from the 1980s origin from East Africa to its fusion in the Americas, and even how it is rounded from Africa, from the African cultural background, talking about the back. In the back, for those who don't speak all of back is what we call a praise song. Okay, so it's kind of like reminding me of the praise song for the video. Beautiful book by praise song Paul Marshall. Yeah. So beautiful book also, explaining how the African Americans in America, if they cannot take it to Africa, they use the Caribbean as a shortcut. The brown, culturally speaking, and yeah. So thank you so much for that. So we're just going to give now the floor to Dr. Gideka, who's going to share with and then after the movement, please, Dr. James. Thanks so much.
Everybody. So, to my question. Lecture. So, Leila Boom in Jazz, African music after training in the Black Identity. Richard, Leila and you are directly survival and there are confirmation direction. This way for different exam state. We see from Mississippi, New Orleans, and Afrobeat and Alpha Popular, represent rural resonance of African music. What we are going to develop the music of that. Music with color, Diana Taylor, we feel improved the artist and the performance. We try to define African music as involving externality and drive our improvised history. At the end, we discuss about the main findings of the research and also the research about the person and how to present it and identify. So in this introduction, we're going to talk about African music. African music, the second physics is based on African music, social concepts, memory, the possibility of language, registering historical information, and sometimes photographical lecture. We don't provide for a language deduction in moves become the art from which African remember itself across time and space. It's important to remember that African music was never belonging to the single place or single historical moment. It covers across generation, ocean, and systemic displacement. Sharing music memories that we that hero. Speak of African music, beyond time and space, is to recognize the ability to survive the rupture of slavery, colonialism, and forced migration while preserving cultural continuity. It is like political borders or literary flow that can be destroyed. Music endures repetition or transmission, collective remembrance. So it is both timeless and worthless. Timeless is close to great conceptual part to preserve identity, and both that because it moves across continents, the shape itself without moving forms. And also, African music was not therefore because not merely as entertainment, but other physical content. Because humanity, privacy, resistance, and identity. New African and diaspora communities, wisdom functions are the story of language and identity. And at the same time, every African will often straight from their name, their languages, and document identity. Yet wisdom remains. True song, percussion, foreign patterns, and oral never survive. Music becomes yeah. So if they activate more something from their name, then we see. Yet we don't remain. And two songs were and or never survive. By colonial violence, slavery. So, like, concept of the black and I feel it's national. National culture that is the society. Because it's you might want that listen connecting to the experience of sex and diaspora society. With the cycle segregation and trauma, cultural corridor, but the map of the West Africa, cities, sexual date is Europe, and the real tradition. We have America, this is the New Orleans, with the Central, Caribbean conceptual design synthesis. Also, there should be also here, with this map. Ideas about the Black Atlantic over Africa, Europe, and the Caribbean had Africa connected to the historical experience of slavery and diaspora. So the Atlantic is a cultural corridor of transmission and reinvention, not merely the side of trauma and separation. Black cultural production emerged through movement, circulation, and exchange across Atlantic borders. So blues and jazz are Atlantic forms rooted in African continuity, not purely American creation. So diaspora is not simply exiled from origin, it's the connection of new forms into memory continuity. In this first part, we will develop music against erasure. How African music functions as counter-archive against colonial violence and poverty. First, Lela as continuity, African continuity music, blues as diaspora survival, jazz as transformation development. African music continuity on the African side. It originates from Senegal, River Valley, Sandy, and that level. We also describe alcohol, her, and multiple tradition, multi-instance in oral transmission, great singing, communal performance, and historical narration. Practice across the Fulani and oral community in the Senegal River Valley. And also a great scholar of Jan Asman, give a great information about cultural memory related to Yela, saying that Yela exemplifies cultural memory, the preservation of identity through ritualized and symbolic practices. Transmission relies not on writing but on performance, competition is intergenerational influence. So the key characteristic for Lena of the oral transmission is knowledge for and pass through sounds not written, innovation, and we have also the phrase singing, genealogical narration, the video as historian and president, also philosophers. We have also communal performance, so collective participation, memories are shared, future act, and also the repetition, the variation, dynamic tradition is not static, but a living historical form. So Vienna is not static tradition, but a dynamic form of historical survival. It preserved ancestral sound before the rupture of displacement. About the clear. The clear historian, philosopher, project of memory. And stand for the clear of the progressive army, the main characteristic of the clear army. Legal tradition is complicated and what personal knowledge leads to repetition and events, familiar transmission and survival displacement. Whereas response to Western army is texture, institutional research, fixed in document and databases, individual ownership, vulnerable individual decision. Blue is described as dissected hyper. And this by the solution, the American South, American racial violence, the contagious success, slavery, and African American slavery. American South has, when talking about Blue's people in his book, he said that Blue should be understood as historical testimony, expressing the continuity of African consciousness under the condition of American racial violence. And when it comes to comparing that African music intention in blue structure, we have the foreign response, video chorus, which leads to video chorus, voice guided interchange. Secondly, the skill, do not blend and tone flexibility. Polyrhythm and cycle patterns, repetitive chord structure, syncopation, familiar and mutual coordinates, deep joints, familiar Greek experience, and also integration of knowledge. And you can find it improvised vocal phrasing ornamentation. There are also some living artists of African intention. There are some that exemplify, the blues experience, and one of them we can look like the close to blues from from Walker Johnson, French food from University, and Chichinan, Muddy Waters, Manish Boy from Muddy Waters. Jazz finds origin in New Orleans. As ethnic transformation, the conclusion is point of the Black Atlantic. Jazz can be defined as diasporic musical form born in early 20th century. New Orleans, from the convergence of West African rhythmic tradition, blues structure, Caribbean tourism, and European harmonic folk, the most fully realized expression of Black Atlantic sonic synthesis. As a great scholar, Samuel Freud Jr. on the power of the Black Atlantic, the power of Black music, said that jazz is not a wreck from Africa, but the continuation of African music logic within new historical conditions, improvisation, foreign response, rhythmic layering, or direct African retention. And when it comes to historical and musical contextuality here, it emerged in New Orleans, the most culturally municipality in the Atlantic world, almost where when the central site where ancient African were building and construction, these speak directly, it urged that. We have also the cultural good of the blues foundation, African model scale 884, foreign response, students with syncopate, African wisdom, and Afro-Caribbean plays. The cultivation is complex composition at the center of creative art, and also the social function. Like Yeda, jazz is simultaneously entertainment, familiar ritual, political commentary, and historical testimony. Butterfly parades and jazz funerals equal West African processional tradition. So one might say that jazz is not just from Africa, but we met with Africa in new geography. So besides between the movement of circulation and annexation. Africa like in jazz, you can find improvisation, tourism, visual dimension, cultural memory, foreign response, circular form. Here, we're going to talk about the Atlantic soundscape, Sunny, Mississippi, New Orleans, Louisiana, and we can connect sonic geography. The Atlantic as cultural corridor. We're going to talk about the three cities of jazz, Sunny and New Orleans, Palaver Tree and Palaver Tree, and here is circulation from and Black Panther, leading to Maryland. So here, we're going to talk about Vienna in the global field right now. Vienna can be considered as contemporary that sonic memory continues to circulate in global culture. Along with melodic phrases, based on movement and non-lexical vocalization, these performance reactivate an ancestral sonic archive in contemporary popular culture. And why it matters because Black Panthers become one of the modern expressions of the Black Atlantic practice, a tradition rooted in that role travels into Hollywood cinema, centered on African sovereignty and diasporic imagination. And in this map, we can feel that role originated from centuries ago, and after we have the circulation, the Atlantic circulation, which transformed this music into blues and jazz, and after it reached the global cinema with Babylon and his collaboration with the composer Richard Lorenzo, and also it reached the global sonic memory through global. And even we have some example of contemporary resonance with this new globalized Senegalese musical tradition, while preserving real-based vocal structure, rhythm layering, and communal performance, aesthetic, demonstrate that the word music service is itself a definite circulation. I report also by this project New Orleans exclusively connects Trinity and New Orleans with jazz memory. Here we're going to talk about Sandy and New Orleans, the three jazz cities. Historical names share colonial heritage, symbolic religion, and music. Sydney, Senegal, named after Nina, who settled with. So, Louisiana and Mississippi shaped by French colonial network with the same imperial geography, and both cities were Atlantic port at the center of the state's heading colonial. French colonial circulation linked Senegal, Missouri, Louisiana, and New Orleans. And about the city jazz festival, it was founded in 1990, transformed Sandy into one of the Africa's most important jazz festivals. They reconnect African musical tradition with their diverse transformation. Jazz becomes a language of historical return African song. Annual gathering that perform the Black Atlantic Circuit universe, diaspora sound return terms. And the Rich Triangle. We have Sunny from Senegal, New Orleans, Louisiana, and Pauli from Missouri. All named after Saint-Louis, Line of France, imperial meaning as accidental Sunny. Together they form a Black Atlantic Triangle, where rhythm circulates across colonial history. And with Aluquat New Project Orleans, he explicitly performs this historical connection. In this third one, we're going to talk about the sounds and embodied knowledge, the repertoire and alternative epistemology. By using the great scholar Diana Taylor, the book, the Alchemy and the repertoire. And how embodied memory and African origin epistemology also has interpretation as historical thinking, and with two examples of social analysis and African research epistemology. The repertoire, we're talking about the repertoire, the great scholar defined it. The repertoire under the memory of gestures, orality, movement, dancing, singing, rituals required to dance. Writing these texts, use like the artist preserved document, the repertoire preserved experience. And we have here the characteristics of written documents, the archive, and the repertoire of the Central African music. Documents, manuscripts, they record texts in physical or digital form, Here we have performance, voice, rhythm, texture, like repetition and rhythm. Linear transmitted through participation, destroyed by fire, compressed and erasure. The mechanic of archive can be described as it can be burned, destroyed, but also it can be manipulated by those who are in power at their own convenience. And instead, the repertoire require presence, require performance, in gestures. So here we have the two forms of resistance erased here. So African memory survives slavery two forms of preservation, writing and music. The music became the dominant archive where race were embraced. Then we have the two periods, Uba Ibn Said and Ayuba Suleiman Jaya. Born in Peru, Uba Ibn Said was a ministry and he go to the American South. He worked in both autobiography in Arabic, one of the surviving whispers and narrative by the enslaved African in America. In Arabic literacy was itself an act of identity preservation, proof that African intellectual tradition cost a man's impact. And also Ayuba Suleiman Diallo, also was from that work enslaved in the Maryland, who was Arabic literacy from American to focus Islamic scholarship and eventually secure his freedom. These days demonstrate African intellectual tradition, Islamic scholarship, Arabic literacy, social skills, and the captivating and statement. So music where writing was forbidden. Where writing was denied, music carried the outline. Ancient Africa was systematically stripped of name, language, document, and cultural status, yet wisdom remained. Through some percussion, choral response, and oral performance, cultural memory survived. And the two distinctions are writing depends on literacy, institutions, paper, but music depended on guardians, class, and community. So when colonial violence destroyed the first, the second entered. The third sound replaced script as the most mobile and communal form of African memory. And this is precisely why books and clouds are historical documents. So here we have the embodied existence of African music as knowledge, music of our food, standard effort, and river. Here we talk about our food. Music is the externality, not just basically. African musical systems must be understood on their own intellectual terms rather than measuring against Western theoretical models. Rhythm, repetition, and performance are themselves forms of knowledge production, not mere entertainment. In the power of that music, statement role plays like repetition, rhythmic, layering, improvisation, and choral response, enduring African retention within African American musical tradition. These factors stay with memory across slavery and diaspora, even when witness continuity was silently interred. And we also we say that means must be read on the historical and social texts. These are just representative or of black historical consciousness. Studying them is reading history through sound. Music is not representation, but it is historical reality itself. And what we talk about, so jazz, which image later, more interpretation of historical memory. Interpretation is not the abandonment of tradition, but dynamic engagement with integrated memory. African music demonstrates that memory can survive beyond the different age. Year after the genealogical memory is West Africa, British transformed trauma into solid testimony, jazz expands this memory into a broader integrational language. These forms are not elevated genres, they are interconnected articulations of the same Black Atlantic past. So the Black Atlantic semi-past language has been accessed from West Africa, genealogical memory, communal identity, or epistemology. In the American South, carrying also unique testimony, we can understand the legal plantation memory, jazz in all in the world, improvisational archive, global circulation, and perpetual reinvention. So to conclude, African music functions as a living archive that preserves historical consciousness beyond recent definition. Yale Avenue and are interconnected constellations of the same life lyrics and mental. The results survive where language and institutional archives live. Music preserves migration, struggle, resistance, neutrality, and communal identity across the Atlantic. Western conceptions of archive and knowledge are challenged by African music, embodied documents, oral sites, oral transmission, and musical repetition constitute legitimate forms of historical collection. The Black Atlantic is a system of multidirectional circulation, not the one-way traffic of love, Afrobeats, Black Panther, and the Silver Star Festival demonstrate ongoing vitality of this system. Africa, the Atlantic diversifying Africa, exemplified Africanism across countries, transforming into the boom jazz and global musical traditions that now define modernity. About the perspective of the study, they understand the framework of sonic memory and the Black Atlantic, because they are over genres of sonic memory, rituals and gospels. African South musical and projects in American systems for conservation of personally and memory conversion and cultural reggae identical with Caribbean constellation of Africanism, Rastafarian cosmology of African ritual essentials. Also, Samba and Candomblé, Brazilian synthetic tradition, Yoruba and Bon mutual memory with Catholic context of Africa. So this research invites scholars to take oral traditions, government wisdom, and general memory previously and the scope of historical knowledge. Challenging the traditional views of Western African archive from African music demonstrates the memory is not confined to text or instruction. It provides from sound, movement, and collective fulfillment. Music does not disappear, it migrates, intended form, but not memory. So here is the correct example. And the conclusion is that African music does not disappear, it migrates, intended form, but not memory, and now with the silent Africa and emphasize the leader. From Senegal, it was the from Milan to England. African sonic memory introduced across time, culture, and emotion.
Thanks so much for your beautiful presentation. Dealing with music as archives, music as resilience, and explaining how the era of music, really built for birth to blues and jazz. In many ways, people say, when you talk about Said, that's super joy. Okay, and then when we talk about I also have understood that both of them have line, and they can depend through the Atlantic Passage, particularly to the United States, they were able to convey their convey and carry the weight of their history in the Chinese space. And thank you also for dealing, historically about the birth of Louisiana. When we talk about Louisiana, when it's strongly linked to Sandy, but because during the same time period when Louis XIV, when he was invading 70% on that. At the same time, when he invaded Louisiana. So his name, gave birth to Senegal and Louisiana, like we. Yeah, so that's it. And that's why back then also, when we talk about communication, whoever controlled thinking, or thought, or whoever control, your education, control everything. And that's why during slavery, they would not let anyone play trumpet. Because they knew that, people would communicate, through that channel. And that's why, so, yeah, it's very important, very important. So, and actually, the French, at some point, they had to, give away, not to give, but to sell, Louisiana to the Americans, because they needed more resources when they were fighting against the Haitian, because at that time, the Haitians were fighting, really for the liberation. Remember that Haiti was the first, free black state in, sorry. First free black state, nation, country, okay, in the world, Haiti, yeah. When it brings about the Africa, basically, we talk about Liberia, but remember also that Ethiopia, has never been colonized. Yeah. So basically, that's thank you for your presentation. And now, without further ado, we're just going to give the floor to Dr. Simpson, who is going to put that online. Thank you, Dr. Simpson. You have the floor.
Hi, thanks a lot. I guess it's my turn, right?
Oui, je vais préciser que Dr. Simpson va présenter en français, non?
Oh, okay. Je veux partager mon document. Can I share it right away here? Is it possible to share my document, my PowerPoint, please?
Okay.
yow xaar ma partage ko xaar dafa am lu may partage.
Alors, je vais sur partage là. Alors, c'est le host qui doit me laisser rentrer là. Only the host can share in this meeting. That's what he's saying. How can I make it happen?
Non, il peut partager.
Non, j'arrive pas. Ils disent que il faut que c'est le host qui peut
Non, je
partager.
l'ai autorisé.
Okay. Let me see. 1 second. Start podcast. Je suis sur ma tablette. Alors, pourquoi ça me fait ça? Je vais prendre là. Problème technique. Je vais chercher ici, cher. I don't know what's going on here. Can you see my screen now? No. Is it working? Can you see the screen?
We see your screen, but not your PowerPoint.
Oh, I don't know what's going on. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to change the computer. I might want to use this one. Sorry. I couldn't listen to you guys, but I was like, the sound was kind of. Okay, there we go. Let me connect myself here. I'm so sorry. Let me use the computer. Okay, guys here.
Recording in progress.
Oh no, sorry. I guess you can see my screen is flashed.
Yes.
So. Let me turn off this. I have to flash. Why? So, il m'a demandé, mon collègue, Dr. Camille, de présenter. Vous voyez, can you see me? Okay. Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me as a citizen, Geno citizen. Je vais présenter Camille. Dr. Camille m'a demandé de présenter mon talk en français. Voilà, comme tout le monde a fait en anglais, donc comme je parle français aussi. Alors voilà, donc ça s'intitule Le voyage de la voix africaine, analyse d'une odyssée à travers les âges et l'espace. Tout simplement, je vais vous demander de fermer les yeux un instant. Imaginez un instrument qui ne pèse rien, que vous portez partout avec vous et qui contient à lui seul la mémoire de 1000 générations. Dans les cales des navires ou les scènes de Tokyo, cet instrument a été le seul bagage que l'on n'a jamais pu arracher à l'être humain, sa voix. Aujourd'hui, je vous invite à suivre cette voix africaine. Ce n'est pas seulement un chant, c'est une architecture invisible, une odyssée qui a traversé les océans pour apprendre au monde entier à chanter sa douleur, sa foi et sa liberté. Alors, je vais vous jouer cet extrait. Alors, je viens de vous joindre, frère. Je vais évoquer ici ce que j'appelle la genèse, l'âge de la Genèse, en tout cas, la voie institution. Vous m'entendez ou pas? Vous m'entendez? Allô, vous m'entendez?
Yes, we hear you.
Yeah, great. Attendez. Avant de voyager, la voie s'établit. Elle est l'outil de la gestion de la cité, de gestion de la cité. En parlant d'une analyse sociale, sur le point de vue analyse sociale, le champ est comme un contrat social, en tout cas, comme un contrat social dans mariage, funérailles, médiation politique. Pour évoquer le champ aussi, on peut parler du griot qui est le griot est le premier navigateur, et celui qui voyage dans le temps, le passé des ancêtres pour éclairer le présent. Je parle d'ancrage de la voie de la cité, vous allez l'observer ici dans le prochain slide que je vais jouer. Attendez, je crois que j'ai l'écran qui bouge. En Afrique traditionnelle, la voix n'est pas un simple divertissement, c'est une institution sociale indispensable. Euh, le rythme, elle accompagne le rythme de vie, accompagne les semailles, les récoltes et les rites de passage. Alors, je vais pas être très très long parce que je crois qu'il y a d'autres personnes qui vont intervenir. Je vais vous jouer un extrait comme ça du Cameroun. Comme nous, comme nous le savons tous, la voix est vecteur d'émotions. La voix raconte des histoires, une histoire, des histoires. La voix nous révèle. La voix nous raconte nous-mêmes, raconte qui nous sommes. Lorsque vous décrochez le téléphone déjà, vous pouvez avoir une idée de la personne que vous avez au bout de fil. Qu'est-ce qu'elle vous raconte, qui elle est, comment elle se présente, qu'est-ce qu'elle veut vous dire, l'état dans lequel se trouve l'individu qui vous parle. Voilà. Donc ici, je vais un peu évoquer de manière sommaire un peu le rôle du griot, qui est une bibliothèque, véritable bibliothèque vivante. Euh, il ne chante pas seulement, il archive des généalogies, célèbre des épopées et conseille les rois. Sa voix est la boussole d'un peuple sans écriture scripturale. Cette voix, elle est mémoire d'une époque, d'une culture, donc cette culture afrodescendante ou africaine en tout cas, qui nous fascine tant. Alors, là, je vais parler de l'Odyssée de l'espace. J'entends par là la traversée transatlantique et la résilience sonore. Vous allez voir qu'il y a des survivances euh, africaines dans d'autres contrées, particulièrement dans la Caraïbe francophone, anglophone, tout ça, et puis aux États-Unis notamment. Et je vais jouer un extrait d'une soirée de veillée en Guadeloupe qui s'appelle pratique chantée, ça s'appelle Bouladiel. C'est une transposition des percussions à la voix. Et vous voyez vraiment comment l'organisation de l'espace sonore est commune à toutes les traditions africaines, en tout cas. Donc, le chant, tambour, danse, et puis le public, qui fait partie de l'orchestre aussi. Alors là, je vais le laisser. On constate donc que malgré l'arrachement et la destruction des instruments, les tambours étaient interdits à une époque. La voix survit dans les plantations et se métamorphose en field hollers, les cris de chant, messages codés pour la pluie et la coordination du travail. Ces survivances, elles sont liées au fait que la mémoire a un rôle majeur dans toute forme de transmission. Alors, je vais embrayer cette fois-ci sur ce que j'appelle l'épreuve de l'océan, le seul bagage, donc bien entendu, je vais souligner, nécessairement sur la grande fusion américaine, l'hybridation forcée entre les racines africaines et les structures européennes, qui donne naissance à une révolution mondiale. Nous avons dans le Negro Spiritual, c'est Gospel, la réappropriation de la foi, le blues, l'expression de l'âme individuelle, le jazz, la liberté retrouvée par l'improvisation vocale. Euh, Nous allons aussi, j'imagine que on a pris un peu de temps là, l'ère de l'expansion, la voie planétaire. Ce que j'appelle la voie planétaire ici, c'est l'ère de l'expansion et de la conquête des charts mondiaux. Vous avez les Burna Boy, vous avez les Youssou N'Dour, tous ces grands musiciens, tous ces musiciens du continent qui vont inonder toute la planète, qui vont inspirer aussi d'autres musiciens occidentaux qui vont trouver des croisements pour mieux, comment dirais-je, euh, euh, vulgariser leurs travaux, en tout cas leur talent, leur talent. Il n'y a qu'à voir que dans beaucoup d'orchestres, même en France déjà à l'époque où je vivais, où je suis en ce moment d'ailleurs, il y avait toujours une part d'Afrique dans les morceaux chantés par les artistes français ou bien étrangers. Alors, je vais embrayer sur un aspect qui est très intéressant ici, cette modernité et afropop. J'ai pas l'habitude de cautionner ce mot modernité. J'aime parler de ce qui est contemporain, en tout cas de musique contemporaine. Et l'afropop, pour moi, c'est révélateur de beaucoup de choses. C'est des nouvelles tendances euh, qui poussent, auxquelles, euh, des nouvelles tendances auxquelles beaucoup de jeunes adhèrent, en tout cas en ce moment. Donc, vous avez la main piano, une variété de musique, ce qu'ils appellent l'afrobeat, qui n'est pas vraiment l'afrobeat originel de Fela Ramson Kuti. Voilà. Alors, ensuite, ici, je vais vous montrer quelque chose d'assez intéressant, important pour moi, qui forme une des ossatures des musiques africaines, en tout cas, la forme responsoriale. Pour nous, musicologues, nous appelons la forme responsoriale ou la forme antiphonale. Donc, ce qu'on appelle communément le call and response, appel-réponse. C'est ça en français, je crois. Donc voilà, c'est une structure sociale rendue audible. Le soliste appelle, le groupe valide. Le rythme vocal, dont la voix devient percussion, l'utilisation d'onomatopées et de polyrythmie complexe de langage paraverbal aussi, bien entendu, parce que vous allez entendre ici des expressions qui n'ont pas de signification sémantique véritable, mais qui ont une signification propre au contexte dans lequel nous nous trouvons, au contexte africain ou afro-global, qui est nécessaire à la compréhension même du jeu musical qui est là, en face de nous. Alors, l'universalité, ce schéma se retrouve aujourd'hui dans le rock, le hip-hop et même l'électro-moderne. Je vais jouer dans un extrait de James Brown avant de boucler la boucle. Et vous allez voir comment, pour ma part, James Brown est resté très africain dans sa façon d'organiser son sonore. Donc voilà.
Per la prima volta alla televisione italiana, James Brown.
Voilà. Donc, je crois. Vous entendez bien là-bas de l'autre côté? J'ai l'impression, apparemment, le son n'est pas très bon de l'autre côté. On n'a pas fait le test, malheureusement, au début. Alors, comme je l'ai dit plus tôt, comme vous l'avez pu le constater, vous allez voir que je parlais du triptyque chant, tambour, danse, donc cette construction de la musique dans ces diasporas, dans la musique africaine en tout cas, sont les éléments qui prédominent en tout cas, en dehors du langage paraverbal, les onomatopées, les polyrythmies complexes qu'on a énumérés tout à l'heure. On va éventuellement évoquer aussi le griot, le rôle du griot qui est comme une bibliothèque vivante. La voix est l'archive historique et le ciment social des sociétés ancestrales. Donc, les sociétés ancestrales, la traversée de l'Atlantique, les négros spirituels et les rock songs deviennent un outil de survie et de code secret. L'expansion culturelle, l'éclosion du blues, jazz et soul, la voix africaine redéfinit l'esthétique musicale du XXe siècle en Occident. On parlerait même de domination globale. L'afrobeat et l'amapiano conquièrent les charts mondiaux. La boucle est bouclée, retour aux sources technologiques. La voix africaine n'a pas seulement voyagé, elle a colonisé l'oreille mondiale par l'émotion et le rythme. Je dirais aussi que la voix africaine est une archive vivante. Elle ne meurt jamais, elle se transforme pour continuer à raconter l'humanité. Merci de votre attention. Voilà. Vous m'entendez ou pas? Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, yes.
And how's the sound? I couldn't, I mean, I don't know. We didn't have a chance to do any test before we start. So that's all I wanted to say. Anyway, I went quickly. I think I didn't want to take a lot of time. I don't know. I can't hear you guys. Are you talking to me? I think your mic is off. Let me check. Le micro, il est off. Je sais pas. Je vous entends pas du tout, hein. I can't hear you guys. Doc Camille? Je ne sais pas ce qui se passe.
Ah, pas encore. Hein?
Ça va être bon.
OK. OK, merci, Dr. Gino Sixon, pour votre bien présentation.
Merci.
Vous avez parlé de la voix africaine, comment elle a pu voyager dans le temps et l'espace, et comment elle peut symboliser une architecture invisible, mais très puissante en symbolisme. Vous avez tiré une similitude très puissante avec le Naïvéli dont Dr. Jean Diallo avait fait l'énoncé à l'entente de notre discussion. Ça me fait penser en fait à une chose. La puissance de la voix, même ici en Afrique. Si on dit souvent, par exemple, like, make sure your mother, doesn't curse you. Okay? Quand vous faites du tort à votre maman, et qu'elle n'est pas contente. Si elle dit quelque chose, you have to make sure you go down, you say, Mom, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it again. My apologies. Parce que la langue est vecteur de pouvoir. La langue est très puissante. La langue. Donc, c'est pourquoi même, you have to make sure, everything you say is something beautiful and something good. Because sometimes, you might say something which is bad, and that thing might happen. Yeah. Il faut toujours se rappeler, même d'un point de vue biblique, même à partir des limites, que Dieu crée le monde à travers le temps. Il disait la lumière, il y a la lumière. Il disait les eaux, il y a les eaux. Ainsi de suite. Donc, juste pour dire à quel point la parole de Père est très puissante. Et donc, pour te dire aussi, so, beautiful explain how through time and space, through the Atlantic slave trade, how, the Negro scriptures, were used by the African community in the United States, using how to sort of like, a sort of resilience, tool. And they came up, with blues, jazz, Afro, and, Jay talked about Afrobeat. So, and you beautifully made a connection between songs, the drums, running, and dance. So, thank you so much for that. I think we can now open the floor, and for those who would like to take it. Even those who are also online, you are free to ask questions. Okay, just, you raise your hand and then after you give me the floor. Thank you so much.
So, thank you for your wonderful information you've gone through. Also, institution, Action for University. So, for asking the question, then things you know, speaking with you, like, don't come on the so, I will know, after the new property, the royal people. Noticing the tradition that we don't go to language Africa. When we connect people that spiritual. And also that culture can move beyond time and space. Inspiring me of one word as in the mind of power of very teaching taking into account the modern aspect. And my question is how the word, how can, so, how the word set of the African music, global divide, still failing to full economy and preserve the cultural languages and tradition that created. Yeah, the question is, how can the word celebrate African music, global live, fairly, in full format. It's no. So important for preserve culture, language, and tradition and culture. So I heard you work at the so detail which you might be able to look with. The culture and teaching excellence to be like Good evening, everyone. I am Peter Badu. First of all, I have to say, congratulations for all of you is very brilliant job. Secondly, I have some questions. And I have two questions for you. The other two. And I have also one for you too. All right, so the first question is, why is reggae music important for Brazilians? Why is reggae music important for rest of the. Why is unique for what's the. This is why. Question number second. Why is the younger part of the life? Why is the younger part of the why is the younger part of the the reason is how is the urea? How is the urea the guardian of memory? What shows that he or she is a memory keeper? How is the urea the guardian of memory? What shows that
alors
he or
waaw Mbaye Dieng yow da ngay woo nit mu ne maa ngi lay rappel du tee si téléphone
memory keeper? This is not right.
loolu fan nga doon wax ak Kumba
No. So, material gasoline, we will balance around. So, you want to get information. So, when you balance, so, my question, what impact that after you have time on the information? What impact now the in the regulation, and how population for local being, so because it is how that African community pay their memory and identity black community across the black background. What in what way did it community become a form of resilience and cultural survival for Africans and the African diaspora during and after slavery? Of that African community, preserve the memory and identity of black community of black personalities.
What then?
In what way this community become a form of resistance and cultural survival for African and African diaspora during and after slavery.
mooy li problème bi kay
What is this community? Form of resistance and cultural survival for African and African diaspora during and after slavery.
In our own situation, however, I think that we have several information, now, I would contribute to what you said about music, but also the power of voice. Specializing American study, I have noticed that in Caribbean slavery, because we all know that Caribbean has an abrupt beginning, and for that reason, slavery has been really harmful in Caribbean, but also black people, because we have slaves, which was who was like euthanized in Caribbean, and it's the one certain time slaves have this cases about the condoms, they're captured
disappearing. For that reason, they have to react. And one of the ways that they reacted is to celebrate their culture. And as you mentioned, the utilization of the sun, many was as wrong, whereas popular, for that reason, they use music. And they use the same, even sometimes when they're working with patients, they use the same in order to be rooted in their culture, because they know that it, their music have become a kind of different, self-different, because they are aware of the fact that if they did not react, they capture with different people. And also, words and speaking is one of the most powerful weapons human can has be able to, and that's going to be his representing the liberation of some country which was enslaved. Is all these words, and if these words has been constantly made, because music is composed by words, and this will be there, people have mostly combined can produce magic. And I think that was a case of some slaves. They use it as music in order to keep it to reject somehow this Europeans culture, and to be capable to the world culture.
Okay, thank you so much for your questions. I think we'll start with Dr. Bibeka, right after Dr. Danjalo and Dr. Dino Sisa.
This question from Mr. Chando, so the healthcare service, lowers the risk of cancer. Each one of the solutions comes from the goal of DNA. Then, Nina survived during the immediate passage. And these black solutions are that the middle passage is not a site of separation, but it was also a cultural corridor. The project one for cultural action musical. Some elements of action music is not musical by. And from there, we have booms, for example, in the Atlantic. Through this key expression of labor on the racial violence, and I think, very comfortable, please remember the one. And also the jazz. The jazz, we have to reimagine survival. And when it comes to, for example, I'm going to do it in a most higher way. First, we have Yella. After died, and after, I'm going to talk about Afrobeat. Afrobeat without S, not Afrobeat, is what we have now with that and so on. So, for example, with Elasticity, he is a Nigerian singer who this music found several elements from jazz. So, it's not only about, for example, the Black Atlantic anymore. The Black Atlantic, of course, we have a full circulation back, the return back of jazz to back in the African community. And from that, even, in hip hop and R&B, you can find improvisation is the core element of Yella. For response pattern, so, I think we have R&B, hip hop, even dancehall, So I think, it's, moved across all generation. Until now, I think in every genre of music, we can find, some, elements of that. Yeah. So the question, how people know the artist of the memory, what should be a memory keeper? How is it real, the artist? So what makes it like, all right. Actually, for Buddha, it's more, and, the next characteristic of the user, the forward transmission. And what makes me like be, for example, it makes me, from, on Attila, when used to say that in Africa, the way people can die, it is like, the racial refugee. So, you can be considered as being African. People, they are the who can still within our country. They are the ones who can also, they are diplomats that they can find a lot of people. Also, it's not all about being weird, about, for example, singing, dancing, no. It's not all about that or crazy, no, it's more like someone, other embodied party, the part, really party, someone, very full of knowledge, and it is great that, for example, I think these, about that, transform into the geography. The way transform into the geography, they adapt itself to this reality. For example, they talk about more about the songs mainly fertilized with rappers, lyrics, politicians. For example, to jazz, it's more about improvisation, more creativity. After being heard, after they all of a sudden now they start using some of the idioms and work to survive. One I say that like this. And survive, yeah, and now we have, several music genres which, we have, for example, with celebrity. And also, even, we can found, other later, so, you can find it directly, then, or, just you feel after, besides that. No, absolutely. For example, in jazz music, you can found a lot of instruments, but it's European instruments. So, it's, we just found, from African music elements and in different area. It's like an adaptation, Yeda is from with the second. So when it comes to America, so we started with university, but we saw very clearly the reality of this area, which was, for example, racial violence, remember pogroms at that moment. Yeah. What way, that's yeah, I think it's so interesting because, I think music has always played, two of these, but teaching of the other two parts. Even here in the African sometimes. So, for example, the local nice messenger. And, it can be also, writing again. That is in his country. You were citing again, Russian military, military related. And, in these songs, you can feel that, like Bob Marley. He denounces, racial oppression, at the same time, justice, corruption in this country. So, and it also encourage a lot of people to be aware of that reality, but also to survive. But, this also make a transition for me to, one of the famous, quote of, Nelson Mandela. When he says that, the truest beauty of African music is that at least to me, people think it's not the story. It's just like describe the suffering that I'm feeling, but also inspire you to go every every year. Yeah, I think, that's the main idea, people not be there.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Divya.
Yeah. He's Nigerian, but in this song, he will, incorporate something like plan. Instead, for example, this phrase that, the Black Atlantic also very big. For example, Senegal, Riviera, Louisiana, so they show very, in Africa. And he exemplifies it in this song.
Okay, thank you so much. So talking about therapy, now the generation we know very well is what we call Afrobeats. So when you talk about before having Afrobeats, we have Afrobeats. And Afrobeats was therapy to this. So, and he used to say that, back then he was saying that music is a weapon. Okay? So he was using music, as a tool to fight back against the repressive regime in Nigeria at that time. So we had time, going to YouTube, find a lot of things of him. He was a very, strong man. And he was very African also. He had a lot of wives. He had a lot of children. And his his son, this day saying, take Gucci. Okay, and so that was the parenthesis. So we're just going to give the floor to the system for some minutes, and then after we finish this, Dr. John develop and then we get on. Thank you so much. Okay, you have the floor.
You're muted.
Yeah, I'm muted. I'm sorry. Thank you so much for having me for this wonderful talk. And what can I say? I'm just fortunate to be among you guys, even though I'm far away. Not too far, but usually I'm very far. But yeah, what can I say? Did you ask me a question? I couldn't hear. I can barely hear you guys very well here, from the place where I'm sitting. I don't know exactly if you can hear me, or is there any specific question you want me to
Yeah,
answer?
we can hear you. We can hear you.
You can hear me, yeah. Yeah, I just want to say that was really brilliant to listen to Dr. Bigé Ka and to listen to all of you guys here. And I hope we get a chance to, to share more. And I don't know how long it's going to last. This talk, this meeting or seminar. Is it going to happen in the future? And what's going to happen? So I was so excited. That's why I try to be here right on time and to witness how your knowledge is. To listen to you guys and to feed myself in a way. What was I going to say? I saw a bunch of stuff from Dr. Bigge that really speak to me. Like in terms of analyzing music and about the music itself. Since I'm a musicologist, so I'm so fascinated by what's happening within the music. So I'm just, this is my boat. I I live inside daily, and I'm just fascinated. When I saw her PowerPoint just running around, I don't know who sent it to me. I was like, oh, what am I going to say? This is great. This is fantastic. I was trying to read everything there, but because I was unable to listen to everybody clearly, it wasn't, because of the sound, I'm just sorry about mentioning this. That's why I've also kind of not, I was trying to focus and listen carefully. Thank God I had a chance to listen to see her PowerPoint. And yeah, my thing about the voice is like it's something very important because it's like food, and, it's something like from generation to generation, we keep we still have the same way of singing. We call it, like, when I analyze a voice, like the voicing, the nasality within the music, the way people sing in Africa, for instance, in the Black diaspora, is very nasal. So it's due, for the most part of the time, it's due to the fact that we have many nasal languages. I don't know if we have some linguistic uh, um, linguist here, and we also, the way we use the vibrato is very different from the West. It's kind of very short, and so we don't hold the note the same way. I don't know if someone speaking at the same time. Hello, someone is on the phone. So it's really interesting to observe, when you have there's someone speaking. Should I stay or should I go? So can you guys hear me? And one thing I was going to mention, talking about voice, is like it's the very first instrument we all have, and the first thing we do when we're born, we make some sounds, we make music, we make sounds, we create the rhythm also, all those elements. If you write it on the paper, it can be something, and you can take it from there and do something huge. And I did mention that, of course, but because we didn't have a lot of time to spend on it, and also the essence of the voice it's really fragile. It's really something. It's very light. It's very delicate. It's very difficult to keep it. The voice is something like that reveals many aspects of our own personality. So it's really I focus on it. I insist on that because before the instrument there were human beings. We are the one who invented all those other instruments because even when we created, we invented instrument, we were thinking about what we hear, our auditory perception, and it's very important also the way we react to music is due to the fact that we are human beings first of all, and then we try to transpose on the drums, we try to transpose on other instruments. We hear the piano, we play the piano, you have the high pitch, you have the bass here. How are you, Dr. Kami? How are you? You have all those elements. So it's something that we can carry without even feeling like it's something heavy to carry. We can do whatever we want to do with this. So yeah, I feel so grateful to be able to be part of this and to share with you guys here those three brilliant talks. And yeah, I'm so sorry that I didn't have a chance to. I mean, the sound wasn't great from from my end. It wasn't fantastic, but it was cool to be. It was great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me, and hope we get a chance. I'm heading back to New York in a couple of weeks, in 2 weeks, I think. And I don't know if some other people have some questions here. And yeah, thank you, guys. Thank you, Docs.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Shino. Hopefully, once you are back in Dakar, we'll be able to have something clear as well. And maybe we can present, or maybe we can go back, Dr. DJ, Dr. Danjalo, we share panel, discussing lively, this okay, Senegal. So thank you so much. So we are going to give the floor to Dr. Danjalo. Thank you so much.
In this, last month, why, how can we want to celebrate for the you're able to keep it much. And we have the country on the measures. So just, say that the world, that we need to keep the culture of the people. So, because you don't have the same meaning, you don't have the same understanding of music. Okay? So one of the facts of African American people, they say that white people try to commodify their culture. So what they see is something they can sell. So they just use it. They use our body to slavery, but they want to do music to make money. It's just company. So that's important. So they don't need to do it. We have to do it. We have to preserve our culture, so we have to preserve our language. But the problem is that we have this touch. That's the problem. After people have to understand. So what we're talking about today, about the meaning of music, many of us don't understand. But music is not just music, it's not just playing, it's sacred. It's something that, out of our institutions, we have to teach it to kids to understand it. So white people they won't have to celebrate because what they see is music. So they can use it to their mind, they can use it to entertain themselves. But Africans don't sing only to sing. That's why a while ago I said that you got only music, they need to play. More than music. Okay? The music, for example, many people everybody understands the human mind. They talk about the divine, they know the happy, and they talk about the ancestors. So it becomes simple. And just to jump into the second question. Fortunately, I had this violence question about why it's very important to Black people. Because it is not just music, it's sacred. And I gave you the why, the reason why it is so considered. This reasoning of them is a classroom. Okay? It's also a means of history. It's part of the history. And I think when I read the 2 steps of, if I just remind you of 2 steps of of the sound, just to give you an idea of what they say. Okay? Electricity. Still need to have God's breath for the first drum. The second drum is the heartbeat, and then the last part is the mouth is the exertion. So when they play, they just play music. That's something celebrating. Something sacred. That's why when you see all for it. I mean, if you take, for example, war, the song War, or my song. That song is not just a song. Okay? It's at the same time a way of resisting, or a sense of celebrating liberation. So I didn't get to that example because when I was explaining the VPN, stuff, it did not give the example. But the first example is Bob Marley as well, because when Bob Marley sings the song, the VPN effect is that Pan-African statesmanship was brought up on MTV in the 1960s. Passed through radio centuries. If it was, to protect itself, it's not something that white people like because it's like the discourse of the speech of and Selassie the first. See? If it was just the song, the text, maybe it wouldn't pass through. But with the song, everybody will listen to it. So we see. That's the way of deviating from the censorship. That's why it's really easy for it. And whatever they play, and like I said, we don't have time to do the rhythm of the live video. They have a lot of songs here, being performed in live video. Even Biggie mentioned America, but put all his poems into songs. Something like that, so I can just idea. Yes. This is I call traditionalists. I don't call those using the lyrics I call the nations Islam. I call you Muslims. I call you Orthodox. I call you religions. I call you you're not personally religion. You have the vision of about the generation about people who are approaches for the identity. Right? Let's see. So I deal with other ways, and it's more important. People are present down so the fact that you are the brand, when you work for, when you're doing it, you can't correct the question. But I think that you have some people who are without rest and way of doing it. So the fact that you put that, you can't have some impact on your confidence. So that's why I don't want the word of I agree.
It's two different aspects. You know, the one who made in this, your nation or your local community, you feel that sound. Other people also, you feel that sound.
Thank you so much for bringing that, but I think also, we have to be very, racist in this time because of the person, maybe with savings. And hopefully, we would like to get back next time. We don't want them to say, okay, guys, no, you guys, you take too much. Yeah, thank you so much, but, you mentioned something beautiful and hopefully, we can take time, work right outside, it's just, yeah. And thank you so much, Gino. Thank you so much for those who are following online. Thank you, Palaver Tree, Andy, thank you, as I said, thank you for hosting us as usual. Always great, to be around. And hopefully, we come back on, we can have something, yeah, in person. And that way you can better listen, to what we've been saying here. This beautiful and meaningful dialogue. Okay, thank you so much. And take care.